No reply. "Ali!" he snapped, loud enough to startle himself. Nothing. He blew out the adrenaline from his lungs, checked the stairs again, winced at the pain in his head, squeezed his fingers into his palms and nodded some kind of vain self-encouragement. Then he said, "It's okay. I'm here," and stepped inside the room. It was cold. Cold and still and quiet. The television was on, but it wasn't regular programming. It was something else, and Diaz knew what from a single glance. It was a high-definition feed from inside the cage, where the constable he'd just left behind was still poking at his phone, presumably searching for a number he didn't have. It was dark, too. The curtains were drawn across both of the windows, one to the front and one to the side, and the lamps were off and the fire unlit, and everything was shadow. The hulking bookcases overstuffed with books and trinkets and paperwork, the corner tables with their strange disfigurines, the long, low couch and the wingback chairs, and the coffee table with the 2 full mugs and the solitary mobile phone. Everything but the TV screen and the dome of light that it cast, unflickering, but dancing with particles of dust and reflected as 2 tiny pinpricks of silver in Alisha Green's eyes. They were open, but vague, unfocused. Her legs had fallen open and her hands lay at her sides, fingers curled into her upturned palms, and her hair was splayed roughly over the back of the sofa where she slumped down in her seat. Her mouth was open, and as Diaz knelt, cursing, between her knees, he could see the pool of saliva around her tongue and hear it bubbling in her throat as she took each shallow, unsteady breath. "Ali," he whispered, suddenly painfully aware of the silence and the need to preserve it, to hear whatever small sound she might make, should it be her last. "Can you hear me?" He placed a hand on her arm and could feel a trembling that he couldn't see. A vibration almost, from deep inside her, somewhere, but she didn't respond, didn't so much as blink. He leaned in closer then, moved to put his lips to her ear, but the blood stopped him. A thin trail, trickling through the neat channel between her ear. Such delicate ears, he noted, and pointed sweetly at the top, like pixie ears, and the back of her jaw, and down the side of her neck, and onto the collar of her shirt, to bloom inside her jacket. He painfully swallowed his breath and rocked back on his haunches, and pulled out his phone from his pocket and said, It's okay, Ali. You're going to be okay," as calmly as he could, as though he believed it. And he punched in the code to unlock the phone, and keyed in the number to summon help, and he looked up into her eyes, and was startled to see that she was looking right back at him, in piercing focus, and her lips were moving as though she were trying to speak, and he let the phone drift away from his ear as he nodded and said, "You're okay," and placed a comforting hand on her knee. "But," she whispered. "But, it's okay," he said, shaking his head and nodding at the same time, and hearing the voice on the other end of the phone, and shushing and telling her, "Help's coming, just relax, you'll be okay. We're going to find him." And he raised the phone back to his ear, and the voice on the phone said, "Sarge?" And Alisha Green said, "Bear," and a single tear rolled down her cheek, and his breath caught in his throat, and in the second before she closed her eyes, one of the tiny spots of silver turned black, and all he could think of to say was, "He's behind me, isn't he?" Episode 1. Chapter 1. 2 months later. It's funny, isn't it? How your mind can always find a way to surprise you. Take mine, for example. After 34 years together, I like to think I know it pretty well. And having spent the whole of my childhood being forcibly drummed into myself, and most of my adult life breaking my back to conform to it, God knows I should. And yet, here I was with an unexpected dilemma. I could hear my phone ringing over the splashing and thumping coming from the bathroom, and I knew that at 6 a.m, the call was likely important enough that I should answer it. But I didn't know where I'd left it, and that was a problem. Normally, like anyone else, I'd crawl out of bed, take a moment to steady myself and for my head to stop spinning, and I'd assume I'd left it in my bag, and that my bag was in the lounge, and I'd go find it. And if it wasn't there and had stopped ringing, I'd call it from the house phone, and sooner or later I'd track it down and return the call and receive some bad news.